welcome everybody to a special bonus episode of the Pulse of Fins Nation. I'm your host, Louis Sung, and I am joined by a full cast today. I have Ron Caniff on my right, I have Alfredo Arteaga right below me, and of course I have Chad Ronnebaum diagonally to my right. I think I'm pointing in the right direction. I hope I am. It looks like I am on my screen. So I gotta go. So I have to go in reverse in order to make it work on the regular screen. Okay, got it. Whatever, that's fine.
Yeah, and Ron is in like an empty room somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you think you're gonna move and then you don't.
Oh.
So yeah, trip to Ryan Tannehillville has been canceled. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about, guys, and believe me, I've got words for everything that's been going on today. Like, just kind of the same stuff that's been happening all season long, but just now on an even more magnified level, and it's very annoying. But before we get into all that, just want to go ahead
for 3 years.
For 3 years now, yeah. So let me just go ahead and mention really quickly, though, that before anything else, our sponsors for this episode, as with all episodes, is PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues, whether you want to make a combination of the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, or if you want to go all in on one league, it's totally up to you to decide. All you have to do is choose the over or the under on those individual players' fantasy projections, whether that's individual stats, classic fantasy point projections. That's up to you to decide as well. They'll even send you some extra freebie picks to make it even easier for you. Like earlier this year, they chose for Justin Herbert to go over 1 yard passing. That was an instant square. And they'll even do the same thing in basketball as well. They have special Taco Tuesday promos that I actually got a clean sweep on just the other night. So I'm very happy about that. And of course, tomorrow is my favorite day of all, Flex Friday, where you can get all your money back if up to a $20 bet if you happen to lose. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up. So use the promo code 5. Again, that's FIVE, and they will instantly match up to $100 on your deposit when you sign up using that promo code. There's no rollover. There's no nothing like that. You sign up, you use the code, you deposit $100. They give you $100 extra to play with. So you basically have $200. So once again, that's PrizePicks.com, the revolutionary fantasy platform, which, by the way, also I should mention is legal in the state of Florida because it is a fantasy sports thing and not a hardcore gambling thing. The reason I bring that up because somebody literally asked me that just last night. So I wanted to clarify that. So I'm going to go ahead and say hello to Jose. Skylar Thompson will rush for over 60 yards, 2 total touchdowns, and we will win this game 24-20. I love your optimism, Jose. I truly, truly do. And let me tell you something. I hope with all my heart and soul the Miami Dolphins pull off a miracle and beat Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. But it was already hard when Tua was the quarterback. And now we're going with Skylar Thompson again. And I'm still reeling from what was, quite frankly, the most miserable and most stressful experience I have ever had as a Dolphins fan, watching 2 horrible teams trade field goals back and forth. It was, oh, God.
If they were reasonably healthy, this week, meaning Teron Armstead, Raheem Mostert, more importantly, Tua Tagovailoa, I would call this game a coin flip. It would be 50-50 whether they win or not. It would be winnable. It'd be absolutely winnable. Yeah.
Yeah, but
like their best game beats the Bills if they're reasonably healthy. They're not reasonably healthy.
They're not even a little bit healthy, like not even slightly healthy. No. Renegade 28 unleashed the Wildcat with Waddle and Tyreek. I think you would have to have Cedric Wilson back there instead, no? Because he's the guy.
One problem with that, and we just finished recording our podcast, and we're dropping it tonight at 9:30. So probably after the show, you could look for our podcast. It'll be up. Mm-hmm. Do you guys want to guess how many carries Tyreek Hill has this year?
2 or 3?
He has 7.
Oh, more than
Waddle has 3. I think that's one issue. It's an issue for the offseason, but I think that's one issue this season. I think they needed to feature them more in the run game. Could open up things more, especially when you do all that motion. So that's something they're going to need to do on Sunday, just to keep it close.
So now, Chad, I want to bring you into the equation here because you were the one just a couple weeks ago that was saying that I almost said Adam Gase, but Mike McDaniel was in serious danger of losing his job and he should be questioned. So now that they managed to beat the Jets and that they actually did make it into the playoffs, what is your stance right now?
Oh, I think he's safe now. To be clear, I was saying if they get blown out by the Jets, I think he would have been in trouble. And the reason I think he might have been in trouble was Jim Harbaugh. So I do think him and Ross know each other, and I think Ross is tired of not making the playoffs and not getting anywhere. I mean, how long has Ross owned the team and they've never been anything? And so I think he's safe now. And in terms of the whole staff, I try to keep things in perspective. You look at that Jets game and really I saw a lot of the same issues. We saw a challenge that failed. We saw wasting timeouts, delay of games. We saw illegal shifts, the same stuff that hurts the team every week offensively, and they put up 3 field goals. So I have a hard time with the whole fire Boyer when the defense is what won the game for us this last week. Granted, the defense has been inconsistent, and I know when the offense was at its peak, they were doing phenomenal, but I just would like to see McDaniel fix a lot of the same reoccurring issues that we see week in and week out. And this is a prime example of a game where we can't afford to have a drive killed by an illegal shift. We can't afford to get a delay of game or waste a timeout. This is going to take almost a flawless game from a mistake standpoint to even have a chance. So hopefully they'll be ready to execute pretty well.
I mean, I just don't think that even, again, at some point, this is my issue, and I'll go to you, Ron. I feel like at this point, talent has to take precedence a little bit, because at the beginning of the year, we caught Buffalo at their weakest because they were losing pretty much everybody in their secondary that was of any importance, and we managed to beat them. And we were pretty neck and neck with them in Buffalo when they had most of their healthy pieces. Now the tables have turned, and Miami has almost no talent left whatsoever to speak of. They still have Tyreek. They still have Jalen Waddle, but I don't think that's going to be enough against a guy who quite literally loves when there's chaos reigning supreme, and that's Josh Allen. If I had to pick between Josh Allen and Skylar Thompson, I wonder how many Skylar Thompsons I would have to combine into one person just to get even close to Josh Allen.
Obviously we're up against it. The Buffalo's a very good team. They win a lot of games, but he's got the shades on.
No, I asked Ron.
Oh, you were talking to Ron. I'm sorry.
I was talking to Ron.
Go ahead, Ron. Go ahead. Take it.
I kind of wanted to comment a little bit more on what Chad was saying. Mm-hmm. I'd seen a stat, might have even been from the 3YPC account. Might have been CK mentioned the defense was either number 1 in the AFC in yards per game or number 1 in the NFL in yards per game last 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. Then I think about that's kind of typical to. Do I have that correct, Alf?
Yeah. They're the number 1 ranked defense the last 3 weeks of the season.
But it's just typical to what that defense in general has been over the years. And when they play bad offenses, they do well. When they play good offenses, they get destroyed, even with a full complement of players, which we haven't even had this year in the secondary. So, my thoughts on what Boyer did on the defense. Well, yeah, that defense just does well against really bad offenses. Congratulations. What do you do against good defenses? You melt. Always has melted. It just has. In regards to the mistakes that McDaniel's made, I did see some of the same mistakes, but I also saw some improvement. I saw a little bit more willing to punt. He got his first challenge of the season, his only challenge, finally. Of the season, he got one. I mean, he only challenged 5 or 6 the entire season anyway. It wasn't like he was throwing out the challenge flag every single game. So I saw some improvement there. I saw some willingness to be conservative, etc. Because of the situation, because of having Skylar Thompson. It also makes sense now that since we know Teddy couldn't even throw the ball 15 yards, why he didn't have Skylar out there running. Because he had just brought Glennon in 3 days earlier, and Teddy couldn't throw the ball 15 yards. So that's why he wasn't risking having Skylar Thompson run. Maybe now we'll have Skylar Thompson use his legs a little bit more, like the one person who mentioned. I don't know if he'll have 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. That'd be nice. I don't know if the Dolphins get 2 touchdowns the entire game, to be honest. But, I think I saw some minor improvement from McDaniel and some of the things that Chad's pointed out, which I'll say, even though I kind of came down on Chad a little bit last time he was on the show, correctly pointed out that McDaniel definitely has things to correct in his own in-game management for sure. So we'll see.
All right. So now, Alf, there's an interesting comment here from Renegade 28. Should athletic trainers and strength and conditioning coaches be questioned with all the injuries sustained this year, aside from Tua? Because it feels like this year, more than any other year, Miami has been absolutely destroyed, like top to bottom, with injuries. And I know that there are guys who are injury prone and everything, but we have to look at this and be like, what the heck is going on here? I think the only team that's had worse luck with injuries this year has been the Tennessee Titans. And they've been like routinely riddled with injuries every single year.
Yeah, if you look at the Dolphins, like where are their major injuries? Mostly non-contact. They employed every single, because you want to point to their practice regimen in the offseason, the OTAs, and in camp, and see if there was anything there. They employed every single new wave strategy to avoid injuries that everybody's tried everywhere. Okay. And they still happen. If you remember, the 49ers a couple of years ago were absolutely decimated by injuries. Okay. And that's where a lot of those strategies came from. It came from the Shanahan tree. Like what they do is that they practice 100% all the time. So if you go to training camp and you watch a Miami Dolphins training camp, they never have 7-on-7. They never have 9-on-7. Okay. They never have skeleton drills. It's always 11-on-11, and they go 100% on every single play, every single drill. And they feel that helps them with injuries. Historically, that has always helped with injuries. I don't know if there's anything that you could put on an athletic trainer when Nick Needham is guarding a crossing route and tears his Achilles when he takes a bad step. Or when Brandon Jones is coming downhill and his knee gives out and he tears his ACL. Or when Byron Jones actually plays an entire year with a partially torn Achilles, then gets it repaired, and then sits out the season because he made a business decision. Okay. And then Emmanuel Ogbah, he's injury plagued, but he's still playing through it. And then the weirdest thing happens to him. He feels a tinge on his arm because he straightened out a guy on a run play, and he looks to his arm and he tore his bicep. So a lot of these things are freak injuries. Even the two confirmed concussions, they happen when the play was essentially over. One happened at 4.8 seconds after the snap, and the other one happened at 3.5 seconds after the snap. So those are plays that were extended, got a concussion. I don't know how much you can blame on athletic trainers. I think most athletic trainers are pretty much the same. You got to blame it on your practice regimen, and maybe a lot of this stuff just doesn't work. Maybe they gotta tweak that next year. Maybe it creates way too much wear and tear. But that has been the MO, and that's what most teams in the NFL do nowadays. Gone are the 7-on-7s and the 9-on-7s. I saw two teams practice against the Dolphins, and I'll give you who they are. It's Tampa Bay and it's the Eagles in the two joint practices. Okay, Dolphins, by the way, dominated both. Tampa Bay used a lot of 7-on-7, a lot of 9-on-7. They used to go a lot slower, a lot softer practices. They were absolutely decimated by injuries all year. Now they're kind of healthy. So, which one is it? You know what I mean? So there's many ways, there's many ways to actually conduct this, and there's no real answer. Sometimes it's just luck.
I mean, I kind of don't want to attribute it to luck, though, because then we start talking about, it's the Tequesta curse. We actually are screwed because we built our stadium over
but people that talk about the Tequesta, curse, those are just idiots, So,
but that's where. But when you start talking about, it's just luck and bad luck, that's where you start going to the brujeria is real, man.
I just kind of think that
injuries, but it is bad luck.
Injuries
it's
are
bad luck. There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Injuries are like turnovers. You know what I mean? Like if you had a season where you had a bunch or you had a few, it's probably going to catch up to you a little bit the next season. Turnovers are the same thing. You got a season where you have a ton of turnovers. It's not something you can rely on the next year. You have a season where you have hardly any injuries. Like we had a very healthy defense last year. I mean, it stayed extremely healthy. Then all of a sudden this year, the injuries catch up. Kind of injuries are going to happen throughout the NFL no matter what. And if you find this time where you got really healthy for a year or two, it's going to catch up to you and vice versa. So I kind of look at injuries like that. I don't know that there's much more that can be, done than what leagues and the teams are doing.
Yeah, the only thing that you can do is like maybe you get different players, but even some of those guys, Nick Needham never had an injury in his life. He had an ankle that he missed one game with as a rookie. That was it. Byron Jones, remarkably healthy. Okay, he had a 4-game stint like 5 years ago. Other than that, he's been an Iron Man. Emmanuel Ogba never misses games. He missed games as a rookie in Kansas City, but he was a rotation guy, so you never know. Sometimes those guys just sit for a while. Who's left? Brandon Jones, never injured at Texas, never injured here, and then he blows out his knee. Some of that is just luck, Now, some players are, have injury histories, and some of them you could almost pencil them in. Teron Armstead averages being out 3 games a year. He missed 4 games this year. So that's right in character. You know what I mean? And that's why you got him for so cheap. You're actually paying for those 13, 14 games he's going to play. That's why he's so cheap. That's why he's like the 6th highest paid left tackle when he probably should be the 1st or 2nd highest paid. And it's because he's going to miss 3, 4, 5 games. So he's not going to hit all those incentives, and his salary is going to stay low. That's the only thing you can do. You could just go back to the drawing board and just think up new strategies to try to keep these guys fresh and try to, keep them in better shape. But other than that, some of these things, non-contact injuries, they're luck.
Well, Chad, I know this may be a little bit out of your element, but you are in the medical field. Like, where does that sort of thing come from? Like does non-contact injury come from just like soft tissue issues? Is this like something that you have to be in shape for? Like, what's that sort of thing?
I'm with Alf. I think it's pure luck when it comes to, you're playing a contact sport. So people are going to get hurt. Usually when you're talking about trainer staff, I don't think I could relate how many injuries you have, indicates how good or bad your training staff is. I look for how good a condition the players are. And I thought the team's appeared to be in phenomenal shape this year. We played some games where the defense had to be on the field a lot. That Buffalo game we won, those guys seem to be in remarkable shape. Look at what Christian Wilkins is doing. That's unheard of at a D tackle. Like the number of snaps he plays. A lot of D tackles can only play 30, 40 snaps, and they're gassed. And he's out there. If you see Jalen Phillips with his shirt off, oh my God, like the guy's like he could be in bodybuilding. He's completely ripped. So I didn't really notice players that appeared to be in bad condition to me. And so that's where I look at my training staff is, are they in good shape? And you can't predict ACLs or Achilles or concussions, things like that. And so from my experience with football, you just play football, the way you naturally played. If you try to protect yourself, I think you expose yourself to more injury because then you're changing your position on how you hit somebody or get hit. And I think that's when you often do get hurt. So it's just been a rough go. And kind of as Ron said, it goes up and down and there's kind of an average. Last year, the defense hardly had any injuries last year. And this year we've had a lot. So probably the only predictor you could do at all is the age of your roster. And this isn't a really old roster, but I always think when you start putting more players that are closer to 30, they tend to start getting dinged up more. That's just reality. But yeah, I absolutely, to answer your question, I couldn't put it on the training staff at all, though. I can't see how they would change anything on some of those injuries.
Okay, but this is no. So now here is where I'm going to actually go into my rant a little bit here, because everybody brace yourselves. And I already see a lot of people here, from Patrick Mullen, their stands, their entire identities and channels are tied up in knots for forgiving this front office and this quarterback making excuses. No, I'm not making excuses. Ladies and gentlemen, let me go ahead and...
Yeah, we're standing. Yeah, it's our fucking fault. Get that guy and fire him into the fucking sun. Like now. I'm so sick of that guy. That guy's a piece of garbage. Complete piece of garbage.
I last week, I said I'm not overly impressed with McDaniel, so you want to call me a Stan, go for it.
Yeah. That Patrick Mullen guy, just block him. Get him the fuck out of this thing already.
All right.
I'm serious.
Okay, so with that
Fuck him
said,
already.
let me go ahead and
He shows up in every single one of these fucking streams. Every single one of these streams. He shows up in every single one of these streams, and then he shows up in every single thread on 3YPC, on my personal account, on our YouTube account, on our iTunes. He leaves. He review bombs our iTunes account. Like, you know, that guy left 6 reviews, 6 1-star reviews.
Whoa,
That guy's a piece of garbage. Will you please get rid of that guy already?
Sounds like a troll.
All right.
Yeah, get rid of him or I'm gone. It's as simple as that. Fuck you, Patrick.
Love you, Alf. Whew. Okay, well, just for you, Alf. He gone.
Good.
Okay, so
Enough of that guy already.
wow. So 1-star reviews all over 3 yards per carry, huh? That's just not cool, man. I'm sorry. So well now
Look, I don't mind if you don't like us, if you think we're assholes or whatever. But when you start review bombing us, go fuck yourself. You're a piece of garbage, is who you are. You know. And then he shows up everywhere to badmouth us. Now go away. That's it.
So Pulse of Fins
asshole.
Nation, the pulse is now rising blood red. All right. So
Bye, Patrick.
Like, do you like this team or not?
Checking my
Go
pulse
root for
right
another
now.
fucking team, man.
Tweet fast.
You know, go root for another team. Seriously. Do you like this team or not? Okay, you hate everything about this team. Then somehow this team is causing you harm. Okay? It's bad for your health. If you hate everything about it, just go away. Go do something else with your life. Okay? But if you're going to show up in every single stream that we do, every single podcast that we do, every single Twitter account, you know, get a fucking life, dude. All right, enough.
I thought we were getting a Lewis rant. Nope, it's Alf's
You got my rant.
Lewis, your rant's going to be pretty minor, I think. Here.
Yeah, I know, right? Like,
good luck
rant's
following
about-
that, Lewis.
Nah, I can't beat that. But I'm gonna say my piece though.
All right.
So my piece is about Tua Tagovailoa. No surprise there, right? But a lot of stuff going on today. Like pretty much everybody seems to be getting on the same bandwagon that being, I guess, being pulled by Mike Florio. Like the whole idea that Tua Tagovailoa's career is essentially over at this point. I really feel like at this. Wait, hold on. Lewis is coming back to reality. When did I say that? When did I say that? I didn't say that. I didn't. Coming back to reality of what? That Tua is not the guy? I think Tua is the guy. I still very firmly think that Tua is the guy because I keep saying it over and over again. You do not get the results that you got in the middle of the season by accident. I don't care if they were bad defenses or bad teams or whatever excuse you want to throw out there. In order to absolutely dominate on offense the way that the Miami Dolphins did, there has to be something there. And the only time they ever got anywhere close to that level of success was when there was one redeeming factor, and that was the fact that Tua Tagovailoa was the Miami Dolphins quarterback. Even without Teron Armstead, it still looked decent with Tua. Even without guys like Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson running the football, they were still looking decent. And even in the moments where Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle had to sit out for whatever reason, Tua was finding Trent Sherfield. He was finding River Craycraft. He was finding pretty much, he would have found Braylon Sanders for a couple of touchdowns if he hadn't dropped the doggone ball. And so I don't know how much more proof you need that this kid is so ridiculously talented. The only thing that you can even remotely argue is now the argument that's permeating all over the world is that Tua Tagovailoa is too injury prone and he should apparently retire before he ends up killing himself. But this is the same argument that we talk about with freak accidents and stuff like that. Everybody has freak accidents. Everybody has torn whatevers. Everybody has concussions. But the only one who gets treated the way that he is, like he's made out of paper mache, is Tua Tagovailoa. Why? I don't get it. And when I've listened to your podcast, Alf. I hear when Simon talks about how, like, we're talking about there's no conspiracy theory against the Miami Dolphins. Talk like this is what makes me feel like there is a conspiracy against the Miami Dolphins, because literally no other team in the entire NFL gets treated the way that Miami does when it comes to these players. Nobody talks about the Steelers with Kenny Pickett. Nobody talks about any of these other guys who have been banged in the head literally every single game, and they're walking off the field all wobbly and woozy because they can't think straight, and they come back next week. Does anybody bother them? No. So again, it feels like there is a conspiracy somewhere down the line because Tua's the only one who is in danger of losing his career because of things like this. I literally tweeted out that maybe Tua should shut it down because I was concerned for him, but not in the sense that I don't think Tua should be the guy next year. I was just thinking already we were not going to make the playoffs. It wasn't worth it. So there's no point in making him play. I'd figure just go ahead and start getting ready for 2023 with Tua leading the charge. Now that we're in the playoffs, and we're seeing everything going on right now with how Tua is being treated, the doctors not clearing Tua, the Dolphins frustrated with the fact that Tua is not being allowed to play. And random Shaq. Tua gets 2 concussions and is told to retire. Kenny Pickett gets 2 and it's swept under the rug. It's ridiculous the way that everybody is looking at Tua like they actually care about his long-term future. Like they actually care about his long-term health. What, you don't care about Kenny Pickett? What's wrong with Kenny Pickett? Is he too Steelery for you? Is it because he's in black and yellow? Does that make the difference? I don't get it, man. I don't. And that's my piece. So go ahead. Anybody else who wants to talk?
Yeah, there's an absolute bias, but I'll say this: the issue that we're facing, and Dolphin fans for 20 years have been waiting for a good quarterback. You finally got one, but it came with warts. He's had injuries. Okay. I would tend to excuse some of the stuff that happened in 2021. Okay. Like last year, he probably should have missed 2 games, maybe 1 game, but he was like, on the down low, he was benched by his coach because basically his coach hated him. Okay. And he hated his coach. Like it was just a bad mix between those two. Okay. It just was. As a rookie, he did miss 1 game with a finger. He was fine to play that day against the Jets, but Brian Flores sat him out, played Fitzpatrick, and they won a boring game against a bad team. But you can't sweep under the rug. He had a major injury in college. And then this year, those are major injuries. When you have 2 head injuries, at least 2 confirmed, and you miss 4.5 games, you start to, be a little bit concerned for the future. But as far as, how he played, anybody who questions whether he has talent or whether he's a good quarterback, those people are just clueless. Because I'll give you some numbers. Their offense was the number 1 offense in the NFL when Tua played. Simple as that. Okay, they averaged 27 points a game. They averaged 3 touchdowns a game. They scored 39 touchdowns. Okay, now you're wondering who did they play against? Well, pretty much against the same people that they lost against, because the game that they lost to the Packers for a half, when conceivably he wasn't concussed, he threw for almost 300 yards on 13 passes. Okay, that's an offense. All right, so the offense is good. Everything is great. Looking forward, but then he has the head injuries, so he is not durable by any stretch of the imagination. You can't say that he's durable. He has to prove that he's going to be durable in this league and that he's going to be available to your team when you need him, like on a Sunday in Buffalo for the wild card game. But as far as his talent and how he plays, he's a top 10 quarterback, really, when he plays. He's a top 10 quarterback. Is he capable of more? Yeah, he's not. The only thing he's not capable of is this is not a strike against him or anything against him. He's not capable of being called elite, but that's in my estimation, because in my estimation, there are only 3 elite quarterbacks in the NFL. That's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow. And I think Joe Burrow has earned it because of his consistency. All right. Other than that, it's everybody else. Can Tua be the 4th best quarterback in the NFL? Yeah. And what's wrong with that? That's kind of what we want, right?
I mean, I don't disagree that Joe Burrow has performed well, but I would argue that Joe Burrow also has more weapons and more going for him than almost any other quarterback in the NFL. How do you argue Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and then you have a running back like Joe Mixon back there who can pound the ball when you need him to? So, my God, man, Joe Burrow has everything. And I think how many games has Joe Burrow played with his best buddy from LSU? 1 total?
Well, no, he missed 4 games this year, Jamar Chase. So
okay,
in the middle of the season, yeah. And Joe Burrow, he had his issues in those games. But Joe Burrow, in my opinion, I think he's moved on from the pack. like the Justin Herberts. You know what I mean? Like, look, I think Trevor Lawrence is coming up. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be really good. And he's improving. Steady but sure. He's improving. He's going to be a really, really good quarterback, and he might test that elite group. But other than that, yeah, Tua's good. Tua's a really good quarterback. He's top 10 at least. And that's kind of what you want. It's just now he has this last thing that he has to address, and it's kind of important. If you're going to be missing 4.5 games, you got to go undefeated every year because when you're in, because you might miss 4.5 games, that might cost you the 1 seed. I think next year, and I said this on the podcast, Sunday is Sunday. But if the season does end on Sunday, which it probably will, you're digging into the offseason and you're thinking about next year. Next year, the expectations are to win the division. And how do you do that? Tua has to play 16, 17 games. Because if he plays 12 games next season, I can guarantee you they're not.
I just don't believe it'll happen. That's the problem. I love Tua, but I just don't think this guy's ever going to give us a full season.
But that's important, and that's going to be important, and that'll be a conversation for next year, because then next year they really do have to make a decision as far as tying up a lot of money going forward. So he's back to that again this year.
And so the next thing I want to talk about is Mr. Ronnebaum. Last time you were on here, you talked about Tom Brady coming to Miami. Mm-hmm. Look what you made happen. Look what you triggered.
I know this is hard, but I don't know why people treat the quarterback position different than the other position. We went out and got Jeff Wilson to pair him with Raheem Mostert to give a good backfield. And everything you're talking about with Tua is, what is Tua going to get paid next year? $4 or $5 million? I don't even know what he's getting paid next year. It's peanuts for how he's performed. So it's not like
$4.5 million.
We've got to get rid of Tua next year. And you guys all seen all of Tua's press conferences, talk to him. Is Tua hard to get along with, do you think? So my point is like, I'm tired of where we're at. I'm tired of, like, not that I'm ripping Matt Moore, but Matt Moore was not our starting quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is not our starting quarterback. Skylar Thompson's not. In the critical games, we don't have our starting quarterback. My solution is don't get rid of Tua. Go get another really good quarterback. And the reason I am saying Brady is it's the only one that makes realistic sense, because he is a free agent next year and he can come here without any compensation. You want to get Derek Carr, you got to pay the Raiders picks for him. You want to get Aaron Rodgers, $59 million on your cap, and you got to give Green Bay picks. Those aren't realistic options when you have Tua. Tua's good. Why would you give up a bunch of assets to go get somebody with Tua? But whereas Tom Brady, his kids are in Florida. He's going to be 47. He probably just wants to try to win another Super Bowl. He might be a really good fit to pair with a 24-year-old. I mean, think of a quarterback room that's Thompson, Tua, and Tom Brady. What better quarterback could they see play than Tom Brady? I mean, he's the best that's played the game. Whether that's realistic ego-wise, I don't know. I don't see Tua having an ego problem if Tom Brady's here. But what I do know is if Tom Brady and Tua are both on our roster, we're going to have a lot better QB room next year than we have this year. And that is the number one reason we didn't have more wins, right? Was Tua was out. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to go get more new linemen? You think that's going to change anything? Like, Tua still has a chance of getting hurt. So I think we got to get one. And if somebody has a better name of a quarterback that can start and win games with this team, I'm all ears. But Lamar Jackson, you think the Baltimore Ravens are going to give Lamar Jackson up for free? They're not. They'll franchise tag him and he'll sit out. Like, they're going to get compensated for Lamar Jackson.
But you can't keep Tua. And like a lot of the names you're mentioning, though, and this is the same issue I had before, is that number one, are you saying that Tua does not deserve to be the starter?
I'm saying nobody deserves anything. You earn it every year.
He hasn't earned it.
You don't come in
with his performance.
Okay, then beat Tom Brady out in camp. It's simple. What's so scary about that? Is he not better than Tom Brady?
The problem is you tell Tom Brady he has to compete with Tua Tagovailoa for the starting job, and he's going to say, "I'm going back to Tampa." That's what he's going to say.
I'm saying he's the only realistic option that might come in. Now, do you have to give Tom Brady? Maybe it is ego. I would grant that. I'm just saying he's realistic. I'm saying all these other names, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Lamar Jackson, aren't realistic options because they need multi-massive year deals, where Tom Brady would probably come in on a 1-year deal. There are other less appealing options. You could go get somebody like Matt Ryan or somebody like that. Maybe Matt Ryan could start 3 or 4 games for you and get a win. But I mean, I'm just naming guys that are better than Teddy Bridgewater. That's not a big jump. I mean, we went with Jacoby Brissett last year. I mean, we've got to get a good quarterback. No matter how much you like Tua, the answer isn't get rid of Tua. It's get another really good quarterback. And we don't have a first-round pick, and I don't think we need another young quarterback. We need a solid veteran quarterback. That's our number one need next year. I don't know how it wouldn't be.
Okay, so I'm going down the list here. I'm just going to go down the list real quick. I know I bullied Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold when the last time we had this discussion. I still bullied them.
I don't mind Baker Mayfield as a backup to Tua.
No.
I don't mind that at all.
No more ego cases, please. I want somebody with a head on his shoulders.
Is he a free agent, though, Baker Mayfield?
He will be a free agent, yes.
Baker Mayfield's not going to sign a 1-year deal. I mean, he's better than some other quarterbacks. He's going to get a 3 or 4 year deal from somebody.
But is that backup or is a starter? Where's Baker Mayfield going to where he said, sure, we're going to throw you a 3 or 4 year deal. You're our starter the next 3 or 4 years. There is no team that is giving Baker Mayfield
depends how much money he wants. Depending on how much money he wants, I bet you he'll get 15 to 20 million from somebody.
The best Baker Mayfield's going to get is to go to a team and say, you can compete. If Baker Mayfield goes to Miami, they say, okay, I compete with Tua. I probably won't beat him out. Okay. But Baker Mayfield in his mind's got to know, but I bet I can get on that field. And it probably won't take long. And then I get to sling it to Tyreek and to Waddle and to all these guys in this crazy good offense. And set myself up either with Miami, if it goes really well, or with another team later on, and then maybe he gets that deal. But based off what he's done with the Rams for a few games, no one's rolling out the carpet. I'd say Miami would be one of the best places for him, and I wouldn't mind having him as a backup because I think he's a better backup than what we've had.
I wouldn't be opposed to Baker Mayfield. I know you don't. There is some ego there, but I think he could win games if Tua wasn't in there. I think he's better.
I'm sticking to my initial thought of him. I didn't like him coming out of the draft because of his I did not like him coming out of the draft because of his ego, and I don't like him today because of his ego, and I think he ended up losing his job because of his ego. That's what I truly believe. Like, he thought he was so special that he didn't have to try that hard.
He hasn't done that much that's impressive to me yet, but again, it depends on the deal. If you're getting Baker Mayfield on a 1 or 2 year deal that's not going to have a big cap impact, I'd be all right.
How many games has Baker Mayfield started? I mean, if you're looking for a backup to Tua, you're probably looking for a guy who started a lot of games and played some competent football. I think that's Baker Mayfield. I mean, if you're looking for somebody with no warts that's perfect, well, that's not going to happen for your backup quarterback. So you're going to have to take some sort of negative marks on your backup quarterback.
Yeah, if you're going out there to look for a backup quarterback, for Tua, all of them are going to have warts.
Yeah.
There's no perfect option. And
there's a perfect option, and it's the one that Chad said we couldn't get last time, Jimmy Garoppolo.
He's not perfect because he gets hurt.
You can't get Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo for sure. Why wouldn't somebody like the Jets
making $7 million right now?
He's make more than $7 million next year. He's better than like 5 or 6 starters right now that he'll get.
I'll say this: Jimmy Garoppolo is better than 5 or 6 starters, and if there's a team out there that needs a starting quarterback, why not Jimmy Garoppolo? Here's the issue with Jimmy Garoppolo: if we think Tua is injury prone, Jimmy Garoppolo is much more injury prone because Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't get concussions. He goes and breaks bones. He makes sure he can't play for 6 or 7 weeks at a time. He's finished 1 season in his career.
If I were,
and they went to the Super Bowl, so that tells you he can play.
Jimmy Garoppolo is going to go to a team like the Colts or the Texans, maybe the Jets.
I don't think the Colts are going to do the rent a quarterback thing again.
No, they're not. They're going to draft. They're going to draft a first-round pick, and that's who you pair with them is Jimmy Garoppolo. You need a starting quarterback that you feel confident can play until your rookie's ready.
Well, okay, so if you're Jimmy G, you're telling me you'd rather go to a terrible rebuilding team where they just drafted a quarterback and they're looking for any excuse in the world to throw that guy in because they spent a first-round pick on him versus go to Miami where you've got super good talent. You know the coach extremely well. You can run the offense with your eyes closed, and you know Tua's going to be out in 3 or 4 weeks, and you're going to look like a star.
I go to the team.
I think the Miami option is where Jimmy would go.
You're absolutely wrong because he's going to go where the money's at. And he's going to get way more money from a team with cap space that has a quarterback not as good as Tua that needs him a lot worse than Miami.
So why is a rebuilding team going to roll out the green carpet of a bunch of money to Jimmy G when they just drafted a first overall quarterback and they're looking for any excuse to get that guy in? Again, the money is not going to be in Indianapolis. Now, you might be able to find a different situation, a different team. We're just talking Indy versus Miami.
What are you offering Jimmy Garoppolo for a contract, Ron?
$10 million.
With our cap.
Exactly what Teddy Bridgewater
You're getting laughed at. You're going to offer $10 million.
He's making 7 now. He took 7 from San Francisco.
I think you could offer him 15 because you're only paying 2 of 4.
We can't. You're going to generate $15 million in our cap for a quarterback.
You're talking about $20 million for a quarterback. That's
for 1 year.
Still less for the 2 guys. That's still a lot less than most teams with good quarterback play. There's teams that have way worse quarterback play, spending way more money on it.
We don't have the cap. We don't have the cap for it. You got to give him a contract spread over 3 or 4 years.
The cap is going up quite a bit. Number one, number two. Trust me, there's room to be made and to be had in that cap. We're not as hard up against the cap as people want to think.
Well, yeah, I'll throw it out there right now. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to make $20 to $30 million next year, and he's going to get a 3 or 4 year contract.
I hear a bet coming.
There you go.
Is this the first one Ron wins?
All right, let's make the mark $20 million.
Okay, here we go.
20 million.
Over or under 20 million. That's the line.
Two things, and he's going to get at least a 3-year deal.
You're saying over 20 million?
I'm saying he's going to make 20 million a year, and it's going to be a 3-year deal, and that's going to be spread out over the entirety of the contract. It's not going to be 20 million just per year. It's going to be that's what it's going to come out to once he gets his signing bonus spread out over 3 years.
Guaranteed or just total contract?
It's signing bonus is guaranteed. He's going to get a signing bonus up front. You're going to have a team that's very comfortable spreading that out over 3 years because their hit to their cap won't be that high this coming season. That's what they're going to do. That's what teams always do. Miami doesn't have cap right now. We've paid massive contracts to Tyreek Hill, to Bradley Chubb, to Teron Armstead. Those contracts are all hitting next year. We don't have a lot of cap room. We can open up some cap space, but this isn't like a team without needs right now. You can't go get Jimmy Garoppolo and give him spread out over 3 years. Tua's our quarterback, right?
I tell you what, we're a playoff team that's going into there with a 7th round rookie who sucks. So I'd say our team needs is quarterback right now because we're going.
I don't disagree, but it's to me you want to get a 1 or 2 year quarterback. I'm just saying I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is realistic. It's not that I don't want him.
How much you think Tom Brady gonna cost you, brother? How much you think he's gonna pay Brady? You think he's paying Brady $5 million?
I'll tell you exactly what I think is going to happen, Ron. I think he's going to be a minority of the owner of the Dolphins next year.
Brady wouldn't come for less than $25 million. That would be
you're not paying him a contract. You're giving him ownership in the team.
Well,
that's not legal.
You're not allowed to. Here we go. More picks we're going to lose.
Point of order. Do that, point of order. Tom Brady is currently making $15 million with Tampa Bay, so there is that.
All right.
Well, on the last year of his deal. Right?
Where else is if Tom Brady wants to stay in Florida, he's either got to stay with Tampa or come to Miami, right? Yeah. I think he'll be more amicable than you think, and he doesn't need a huge contract.
Or alternatively, he could finally hang up the cleats. My God, enough already.
So just to be clear, I'm not against Jimmy Garoppolo, right? If we can get Jimmy Garoppolo to come here on a favorable deal, absolutely. I'm just telling you, there's teams out there that need him way worse than the Dolphins need him because we have Tua. Like the New York Jets would have made the playoffs this year with Jimmy Garoppolo. They're going to pay him more than the Dolphins would.
Well, no, because Jimmy Garoppolo would have broken his leg when they played the Dolphins the first time. By the way, I don't know. You know that Miami's played Jimmy Garoppolo 3 times and they've knocked him out of the game all 3 times?
No.
And all 3 times were for serious.
Maybe he'll stay away from the AFC East then.
Okay.
He's got to be 3 or 4. So.
He played for New England. Kiko Alonso knocked him out with a concussion. He missed 4 games. Then we played him with San Francisco. He tore his shoulder. He missed 6 games. And then this year, we knocked him out for the year when he broke his ankle. So
he should.
I thought Kiko Alonso knocked out Joe Flacco.
People knocked out a lot of people.
I think Baker Mayfield's way more realistic than Jimmy Garoppolo. That's all I would say. Because Jimmy Garoppolo, I think, is a much more proven commodity. Even though he has had injury issues, he's a much more proven commodity than Baker Mayfield.
You might be right. You didn't continue the list, Lewis, because we stopped at number one.
No, but that's okay. No. But hold on a second, because we heard the bet, but we didn't hear the odds. I need to know I need to know what's at stake here.
Yeah, you can't pick it in your prize pick. Sorry.
No, what's at stake here? I need to know what's going on.
We have to change our name on Twitter. It's always the same.
I know, but what are you going to change it to?
Well, I always have to be Dr. Lovecock. That's always the bet. It's been the bet for years.
I remember I had to be Dr. Lovecraft or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Well, I'm okay with that bet. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get a 3-year deal that averages above $20 million.
Okay.
Yeah, I say no.
All the things that come in.
I say
okay, so now we have something to look forward to.
Yeah, something fun for next year.
Alrighty. So now with all that squared away, we have a few minutes left. Let's talk about this actual Dolphins-Bills game because
do we have to?
We kind of have to. It's kind of it's the title of the episode. Can they compete without Tua Tagovailoa? The easy answer, at least for me, is no. But if there was a way for them to actually get in here and win this game, I'm gonna go ahead and ask Alf, what would be the way they do it?
You do a checklist, and there's a bunch of things that you have to do. Okay, you have to have a good performance against Josh Allen. You did that already. You did that in week 3. You got to repeat that. Okay, Josh Allen threw 63 passes for 400 yards. Like I tell everybody gets mesmerized by the 400 yards. And I explained to everybody, if he threw 32 passes for 200 yards, would that be a good game? No, right? Well, he did that twice. So you're going to have a really good performance against Josh Allen. You're going to have to limit his yards on the ground. And you got to get 3 turnovers. Why do I say 3 turnovers? Because that's the magic number. There's only one quarterback and one team that has overcome 3 turnovers to win in the last few years, and that's Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Nobody can survive 3 turnovers. And I'm talking about a 3 turnover differential. So plus 3. All right. So you don't turn it over and you get 3 turnovers. So that way it's completely clean on your end. You're not giving short fields. You're not giving touchdowns. Okay. So that's what you need to do on the defensive end. On the offensive end, you're going to have to get creative. Here's the problem. Our best players are our 2 wide receivers. So how do you get them the ball? You're going to have to run it. You're going to have to throw short passes. You're going to have to do design passes. No progressions, no reads for Skylar Thompson. You're going to have to run the ball. You're going to have to shorten the game. And then if you do all of those things and you play a clean game on special teams, meaning, don't kick off to Naheem Hines, okay? Punt, have a good game from Thomas Morstead as your punter. If you do all of those things, you can find yourself in one of those boring, sleepy games where you're within 1 score in the 4th quarter, and then something weird happens or something odd happens. A bad snap. The Bills have a bad snap at their own 10-yard line, and we're down 7, and we score, and then we go for 2. It's going to take something odd, but you have a checklist of things that you have to do. You must run the ball because you're going to have to own time of possession. You're going to have to run many more plays than the Buffalo Bills. And then finally, the last thing they got to do is that their stars have to be stars. And we were talking about this on our podcast. Chris said, look, sometimes it's as simple as your best players have to be stars on that day. Okay? It's the wild card round. If they're not going to be stars on that day, when are they going to be stars? This team is still loaded. Even with all these injuries, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, they could catch a little bubble screen, break a tackle, and take it 80 yards for a touchdown. That's allowed. They can do that. Okay. Jeff Wilson could break a tackle and break a 40-yard run for a touchdown. On defense, Xavier Howard is still reasonably a good player. He's still supposed to be technically a star. He's getting paid like one. He's had 2 games against Stephon Diggs. Maybe he picks one off and takes it for a touchdown. Bradley Chubb signed a $100 million contract with $48 million guaranteed. Maybe he has a 4-sack game. Christian Wilkins is a stud. Zach Sealer is a stud. Jalen Phillips is a stud. Javon Holland could have a monster game. as a spy and maybe pick off a pass. Look at all these stars that I'm mentioning. None of those guys are injured. Okay, those guys are healthy. That's how you give yourself a chance in Buffalo when you're really, really shorthanded and you're up against it and you're 13-point underdogs. Now, can they do it? It's a lot to ask, but it's not crazy if it happens. But that's what they have to do. It has to be near perfect, and you do need a little luck. You need the ball to bounce your way sometime in that game.
Ron,
what do you think?
Everything else said, plus McDaniel needs to call a really good game. He needs to be willing to punt. He needs to be willing to play field position. He needs to get all the plays in time. No delay a game. We really need to probably have 5 or less penalties and hopefully no big ones, like no PIs, no unsportsmanlike conduct or, things like that, late hit on the quarterback, those things that are like, you think you get off the field and then you keep yourself on the field with something stupid. Like those are the types of things that we have to do. And honestly, we need to run the ball, but I understand that we've run the ball in Buffalo before, but Buffalo was defending the middle of the field, the deep stuff. They're not going to be doing that this time. If you're going to want to run the ball successfully, because I think Buffalo's going to be selling out to stop the run. I don't know why they wouldn't, based off what they saw in the Jets game. Skylar Thompson's probably going to have to take a shot or two early, deep, to soften that defense a little. And hopefully, maybe, because I think they're going to be daring Skylar Thompson to throw the ball. I know you're not going to really want to, but maybe early you need to soften it up a little and then start to run it on them. Hopefully, if you could have success on at least maybe one of those shots, I think that would be the way to go.
Chad, let's hear it.
I know on paper it's a big mismatch, but we have a very good front seven. We're very hard to run on. Buffalo is not a great running football team. They're really not. And so typically Buffalo wins games by just having Josh Allen run around a lot and play backyard football because he's such an effective runner with a big arm and he buys time and his guys get open. So my hope would be we're able, as we have the last 2 weeks, stop the run. Do not allow Buffalo to run the football. And Josh Allen will make mistakes. He's not an overly efficient quarterback. He's a really good runner. He has a big arm, but he'll throw a pick here and there. And so hopefully you can take away the run, get Josh Allen in running around mode and get him to make some mistakes. That would help our team out a lot. So I think I think where kind of the silver lining is, I don't think Buffalo's offense is just going to run over us. And so hopefully we can limit the big plays, make Josh Allen have to do 10, 15 yard or 10, 15 play drives and not give up like a 4 or 5 play drive bomb to Stephon Diggs for a touchdown. So I think even though people hate that, we got to play a little bit back and not so aggressively blitz all the time and make Buffalo execute down the field. On offense, I always say you got to play with what you got. Where we got to be very careful. It's not just Skylar Thompson, especially even if Teron Armstead plays, he's banged up. But if we're going to start little at like tackle, you have got to understand he's going to get abused. He's going to get beat over and over and over. And so you can't put Skylar Thompson in 3rd and 12s, 3rd and 13s, and expect to have any success because their DNs are all they need to get pressure on Skylar Thompson. And they're going to have a bunch of guys back, and it'll just be a matter of time before he throws a pick or just takes a big sack and fumbles the football. And so to accomplish that, I think you do a lot of 12 personnel. This is the game Mike Gesicki needs to go off. Everybody's been quiet all year. That's the guy, is Mike Gesicki. Can he start burning safeties and linebackers for Buffalo and force them to adjust a little on defense and allow us to open up a little bit and generate some offense?
I mean, he can't burn anybody, but he sure bailed out Skylar Thompson a lot in that game.
I'm just saying we can't win this game coming out 3 and 4 wide and expect our tackles to hold up in this game. They're not going to. You got to understand that's just not going to happen. And it's boring, it gets boring to get to 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, but you have got to keep Skylar Thompson on those third downs in like 5 and 6 yards or less. Don't let him get an obvious passing downs because he just doesn't have the experience. He's going to miss some reads. And when you get pressure on him, he's going to make some mistakes. That's just reality. Other thing is as Alpha's pointing out, we have some stars. Tyreek Hill needs to have the ball in his hands minimum 20 times, maybe 25 times. I don't care if you hand it off, put him on kick return, put him on punt return, run screens, run bombs, get the ball in his hands because he is faster than everybody on the field. And he could burn somebody. He might score you 2 touchdowns out of nowhere just on his plain athletic ability. I don't care. This is what my challenge would be to Mike McDaniel: get the ball in Tyreek Hill's hands 25 times. Let him try to win a football game for you because he's the guy that's going to be able to do that for you. So that's what I got. I would run Waddle and Hill, and I'd run 2 tight ends. I would pound the rock a lot in this game. I'd be happy with getting 2nd and 8 and say, all right, we're working towards keeping our 3rd and shorts and try to get some big plays generated out of Tyreek Hill. That's what I would do.
Seems simple enough. Now, with that said, gentlemen, before we call it a night, I do want to do one more thing. I'm not going to ask you for 3 players or MVPs or anything like that because at this point, it's I feel like it'd be redundant. But I am going to go ahead and do this. Remember that our sponsor is PrizePicks.com. So what I want to go ahead and do here is PrizePicks is actually not letting you pick defensive players. So that's pretty interesting. So we have actually an extended list here of Miami Dolphins players that we can take a look at here. They're looking at the Dolphins defense in total. Are they going to get over or under 1.5 sacks? Christian Wilkins, tackles plus assists. Are we going to get at least 5.5 out of that? Are we going to get 5.5 or more tackles and assists out of a Landon Roberts, things like that? So out of all this board here, I'm just going to scroll down slowly here. Alf, who are you looking at the most based on the numbers that you're seeing?
I like that sack number, 1.5. I like the Dolphins over. 1.5 sacks. I think Miami could get 4 sacks in this game. They've had success rushing the passer against Josh Allen. He tends to hold the ball a little bit more. So they should have some success there. And as far as tackles, man, Christian Wilkins at 5.5. If you think about it, Christian Wilkins averages more than that.
He does average more than that.
Like, so, I love how there's not even a button here. I can't even check his numbers, but
but he averages more than that. So I would like him. And there's a guy that's going to be really, really active in this game. It's Javon Holland. So I would look at Javon Holland's number and where that is at, and I would take over on that as well. So I don't know if Javon Holland has he has tackles and assists 6.5.
All the defensive players have tackles and assists.
Okay, then that's a good number. 6.5. That's a good number to go over on Javon Holland.
What's that Morstead number? Did you scroll down a little bit? Now, I take the under on that. I just don't believe, even though I said McDaniel needs to punt the ball, I just don't believe he likes to punt the ball enough.
Yeah, especially if you get behind into the 4th quarter, we won't be punting. So that might be hard to hit.
Yeah, I might take the under on that Morstead 5 punts. And I love the Christian Wilkins over and the other one, the Dolphins over 1.5, so just 2 sacks. Yeah.
Here's Mike Gesicki, 17.5 receiving yards. He finally got back on the board.
Yeah, 100% with Thompson and the way he likes to go to him. We talk about it. He's that kind of safety outlet for you because you're just trying to throw a ball to a guy who can compete for it. Because since you're throwing to a player and not a spot, absolutely 17.5. Yeah, he'll get a couple catches and get that.
I agree too.
Ironically enough, it seems like the ones that you should absolutely not be sure of are the guys that we've been sure of pretty much all year: Tyreek Hill and Jalen.
No, I just can't trust it. Unfortunately, I can't. I should be. The guy should have 200 yards if you want to try and win this game, but I just don't trust that they're going to try and shut Tyreek Hill down. And I just don't think that Skylar can get him to the ball on a regular basis.
I like the Gesicki one because Gesicki is one guy on the team that if you get him in man-to-man, he doesn't have to be open. You just throw it up.
Yeah, and sometimes he'll get it, and sometimes he won't. Just kind of like what he's done for the last few years for us, because none of our team has really gotten separation. So he's really been the best at competing for the ball.
Well, for somebody like Skylar Thompson, a lot of the success we had with Hill and Waddle are on timing, but they're getting down the field, whereas that's an easy read for Thompson. It's like, look, if you see Gesicki on one-on-one, Don't worry where the defender's at. Just get it up high. Let him try to go up and make a play for you.
Exactly.
Just takes one of those and you hit your prize pick number there. So 17.5 is pretty safe.
I'd like to see there's no number for Sherfield. I'd like to see Sherfield get involved in this. He can be a pretty physical wide receiver, and I think it may be another nice target for Skylar Thompson.
They
It's
need
just
him to
tougher
block.
for him to get the ball to Waddle and Hill.
They need him to block.
He just can't run the offense properly to do it.
Sherfield's not catching passes. They need him to block.
Well, he'll get single coverage though with Waddle and Hill. So.
Exactly. It's just another situation there because they're going to try and shut down Hill and Waddle, and they're going to be able to do it with Skylar Thompson.
Right.
The real irony here is that of all the players that are not on this list, it's Skylar Thompson.
Skylar Thompson doesn't believe his eyes. That's the problem. You see guys and you see them, and it's clear that they're open, but they're only open for a short period of time. But they're really open. But the problem is he just can't anticipate, and he just doesn't believe what he's seeing.
Well,
yeah. And I saw the all 22, and what I saw was a quarterback that was told, "Don't screw it up." And
no, I mean that was how we won the game.
That's fair.
He looked to me like a quarterback that listened to my podcast last Thursday when I laid out the game plan, which was don't turn it over, and you can't lose.
No, we lose that game if he turns it over. We really do.
Yeah. He can't play. I don't think they'll give him that instruction in this game. No, I don't think they'll say, "Hey, don't screw it up." This isn't the Jets. He's going to have to take some chances.
Yeah,
take some shots.
Look, the Jets have a really good defense. Dare I say, they have a better defense than the Bills.
Yeah,
they just do. Jets have a really good defense, and in that all 22, there were plays there, but there were plays that you look at with Tua. They're probably 70-30 plays, meaning that you get the completion 70% of the time. With Scott Thompson, it's probably 50-50.
Maybe.
But he's thinking to himself, I'm not taking this chance because there's about a 50% chance it's incomplete or intercepted. So it's more like 50% it's complete, 30% it's incomplete and 20% intercepted. I can't risk the 20% because it'll cost us the game and the playoffs. It has to be different in this one. But no progressions because that's when he's going to get into trouble. No reads, design passes. And when people hear what's a design pass, well, it's, you're talking about 3-man routes where 2 of the routes are just going to be dummy routes to try to get the secondary to do what you want them to do because you're going with the football to one guy and one guy only. And if that's not there, it's a check down. It's an immediate check down or you're throwing it away.
Or in his case, run.
Yeah.
According to Simon Clancy, that's all Tua does anyway. I'm just saying.
No, Tua does not.
Wait. Simon said that all Tua does is check down. He literally
he's a one-read quarterback. One-read quarterback.
That's literally the opposite of what Tua's been doing.
No.
You know what? If you want to see all those conversations, pay the $3 a month and go into OnlyFans.
Yeah. Simon was saying that Tua was marrying his first read. Not that he was checking down.
He can't go past the first read. That's it. He's a one read.
Well, it's not Tua's fault with McDaniel. It was usually open, right? The first read.
Because the design is so good.
It's open.
It's open.
Yeah. What are you supposed to do? Not throw your open?
Don't throw it. No. If I throw this wide open past the hill, Simon Clancy might say I'm a one-read quarterback. Let me try and force it to this.
One thing that was important, and it happened the last time we played Buffalo. In my opinion, that was the best game of the year. By the way, when they played Buffalo the second time around, I thought that was the best football game of the year. I also liked the first Buffalo game. The first Buffalo game was really, really good too. It was hard hitting and played well by both sides. But the second time, something that they do, and I talked about this on OnlyFans as well, is they're a balanced defense, which means Leslie Frazier is not going to fool you. He's very, very predictable. Like, what their defense is going to do depending on your alignment. So, whenever you line up strong, they're going to play over on that, which means they're going to have a linebacker right over the center, and they're going to have the other one shading on the defensive end. And then what they do is that they bring their nickel, Taron Johnson, to complete the balance of that defense, which means you could just run weak side ISO on him the entire game and just ground Taron Johnson into dust by running the football right at him. That was part of the game plan the last time that they played. Their adjustment to that was to bring Jordan Poyer into the box when you give him the same look. And when he did that one time, and Tremaine Edmonds, he's going to be a free agent. He's a guy I would target, okay? He was extremely smart in that game. I would suggest fans to go back to that game and go look at the Jalen Waddle touchdown, the 67-yard touchdown by Jalen Waddle. We give the same look that we were running it successfully against them. And Jordan Poyer starts coming down, and Tremaine Edmonds tells him, look at who's in the slot and look who's right next to him, which means that we give him that twin look, which is Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle together. So that means somebody has to come down to get him. And he was essentially telling Jordan Poyer, don't come down on this play. We're going to have to stop the run with 6 guys. Jordan Poyer came down anyway. Jalen Waddle ran past him. Tua threw it over his head. There's going to be a moment in this game where we might have 2 or 3 successful runs, and their answer is always to bring Jordan Poyer back into the box to complete their alignment. Throw it over his head. Good things can happen. Even if you underthrow it. We have fast guys that can run past people. We're going to have to get lucky, and we're going to have to execute on one of those plays. That's going to be completely on Skylar Thompson because Tua recognized it, but Tua's Tua. He's going to have to recognize it as well. He's going to have to see when you're just counting the numbers and you're looking at the color and you're like, okay, there's too many guys here in this box, which means this route could get past the guy. Skylar Thompson's going to have to make some plays for this to be close.
All righty. Let's go ahead and make our picks real quick, and then we'll call it a night. Chat, what's your pick?
I think Miami's going to play this game tougher than people realize, but Buffalo has too much going for them in this game. So I would probably say Buffalo 28, Miami 17 would be my pick.
All right. Ron?
I got Buffalo probably like 35, Miami 13, something like that.
Alf?
Yeah. The spread is 13. I think Miami can threaten late with a garbage touchdown to cover the spread, but I think they'll fall short. So I already picked this on the podcast. I got Buffalo 27, Miami 13.
And I've got Buffalo winning, unfortunately, as well. I'm picking Buffalo 33, and I'm picking Miami like 10. I just don't think they'll score. So, again, Miami got to the playoffs, ladies and gentlemen. That is proof positive that Mike McDaniel's scheme can work. We just need better, honestly, luck with our injuries. My God, this was a rotten year for injuries.
Yeah, and it's a shame. And it's a shame, really, that this game turned out the way it did. Wednesday.
It would be a good game if we had a full complement. If we had Armstead, we had.
It would be a good game if we had Tua.
Literally, if we had our entire team, if we had our team from week 3, if we had our team from week 3, I'd be on this podcast talking about, right, how do we win this game? Because I think it would be a 50-50 game. If we just had Tua and Armstead, because Armstead comes with Tua, he's important. If we had Tua and Armstead, I'd be talking about, okay, how do we get out of here with a win? You know what I mean? And I would expect them to play good, but and play tight and be, right there at the end within a field goal either way. But, unfortunately, that's not what we're getting.
I would say to the social media crowd that follows this is if we get beat in this game, we get beat bad in this game. This team is we're bringing back a very talented roster, and we're not at full strength. So don't be like, this isn't a clean house moment for this team. If we lose this game, I mean, this is a team that's what I would say they're top 3 in the league. I would say the Eagles, Chiefs, and Bills are the top 3 teams in football right now, and they're hard to beat by anybody. And so I wouldn't use this as a bar to we need to get rid of we need to get rid of Tua, we need to rebuild our roster, we need to rebuild. I think we have the team. We need a few additions, but.
Yeah, one tweet I don't want to see because it'll be just galactically stupid if I see it. Is like if the Bills win by 20 points or whatever, or they win by 80 points, I don't care. I don't want to hear somebody tweet out, well, that shows you the gap between the 2 teams. No, the gap between the 2 teams was 51-50, okay? Because people love saying that. People love watching the playoffs, and then you lose by 30 points and you go, whoa, that shows you the gap that they have to make up. No, the gap that they have to make up is that they lost the season series 51-50, and they split the games. It's competition. Next year, you go for the division. You're right there with them. Remember, free agents don't go to Buffalo. Okay? They come here, play the cap game, be smart with it, and get better players. And you'll overtake them. But it's going to take some time. Not this year.
All right. So, with all that said and done, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. I know we started a little bit late, but you know what? It was worth it to have the full entourage here. Thank you, Al. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Chad, for joining me as for this bonus episode of the Pulse of Fins Nation. Next time you see us, we will either be celebrating a miracle in Buffalo, or we will be basically talking about what are the top priorities for the offseason this next season. So either way, it's going to be a fun discussion. Thank you all so much.
Apparently, it's signing Brady for $3 million a year. That's the top. I'm just kidding, Chad.
3.
For free. Have Brady come play for free.
I mean,
Yeah.
hey,
You guys laugh. You guys laugh.
If you're a minority owner of the team, you don't need that much money. You own the football teams at that point.
Yeah,
Hey,
I'll make a prediction. There
goes 2 more first-round picks.
I'll make a prediction. Tom Brady will be here next year, but he won't be playing quarterback.
What'll he be? A
That could
quarterback's
be.
coach?
He'll be team president and minority owner, and retired.
All I know is the guy who makes the final decisions wanted him last year, so we'll see.
All right.
Well, no, that guy got his
Yeah, Bruce
shares
Beal
taken
got-
away.
I think Ross wanted him too. I'm not going to buy
I'm
that.
sure.
I mean,
I think Ross just wasn't stupid enough to.
I'm not against Brady coming. I just don't know what you do with Tua. I don't know how realistic.
It's not realistic.
Tua. Well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, the thing is that if you bring in Brady, you can't have Tua on the roster for that year. It'll be a redshirt year, and you essentially throw away a season you could learn more about the quarterback before you have to pay him.
At that,
You know what I mean?
at that point, if you're going to sign Brady, I would rather just trade Tua, get a first-round pick out of him, and go
You
try to
won't.
get another quarterback.
You can't get a first round pick out of Tua until he plays for.
Did not a team give up a first-round pick for Sam Bradford at one point? Am I misremembering that?
Well, people give up picks all the time, but first-round picks, I don't know. But like you could get 2 second-round picks for Tua, maybe.
I'm going to look it up. Sam Bradford traded
His injury history prevents you from getting anything good for him.
Why would you want to? Why wouldn't you keep him? He's cheap. I mean, he's really good. I wouldn't get rid of him.
Okay,
Yeah, but think about it. If you bring in Brady and Brady plays 1 year and Tua just sits there, okay, for the entire year. First of all, Tua's going to be like, trade my ass, okay, because I want to go play somewhere my 4th year, so I could show you how good I am. So then I could get my $260 million.
That's not his personality. Tua wouldn't say trade my ass.
$260 million changes a lot of personalities.
That's a good point.
I like Tua. I do, but I want the Dolphins to win a playoff game. And Brady and Tua on the same team make that a much more likely possibility than just Tua. That's all.
So before
I can't deny that.
Okay, you guys. So for anybody who thinks that they can't trade Tua, I'm just gonna pull it up here. I looked up the article. This was back before the 2016 season. The Eagles traded Sam Bradford to the Vikings for both a first-round pick and a 4th-round pick. That's Sam Bradford, Mr. Injury Prone himself. And by the way, he was never nearly as good as what Tua can do. You think Tua can't get a first-round pick?
I'll take it back. No, I don't think you get a first-round pick for Tua, but you can trade him because he doesn't cost anything. So
you literally just got one for Bradford.
Bradford didn't have a concussion history, though.
He had literally everything else.
He didn't have legs, but
he actually did have a concussion history too.
Did he really? I don't know.
Yeah, Sam Bradford, he had everything.
Yeah, that's what I said. His everything was injured.
Sam
was injured.
Sam Bradford is one of those guys that actually had good tape and some good numbers when he played, but everything happened to him.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not advocating get rid of Tua. I think he's the future of the position. I think I'm just trying to get the best quarterback to pair with him. That's all I'm trying to do, realistically.
Right. Okay, so anyway, that's going to be it. Thank you all for joining us. PrizePicks.com. Use that promo code 5. That's FIV, and they'll match up to $100 on your deposit when you sign up using that promo code. Remember, you got to put in the money to get the money back. You put it up to $100, they'll give you $100 right then and there for you to use to get some wins. Again, promo code 5, FIVE. All you have to do is choose the over or the under on those fantasy players. That's all you got to do. Very simple. Go over there. Go do it now. Supports us. Supports yourself. Go for it. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you all next week on Tuesday, 7 p.m., where either we will be celebrating a Miami miracle again, or we are going to be saying Here's what we do to beat the Buffalo Bills and take over the division next season. Have a good night.